fire. I lost my, I don't know where the water bottle is.
Fire! Yeah, fire!
We're gonna be putting on the CavFab leaf spring mounts. So yeah, let's get this thing in the air. So we got the Jeep up in the air. We have a jack up underneath, and Patrick's just going around and just taking off all of these bolts. So he put these leaf springs in there, and he went ahead and put grade 8 bolts, but we're just gonna be doing the CavFab relocation mounts. So all this is just kind of loosely up there anyway. So our plan is to drop the axle and leave the tires on it. And we're gonna leave the tires on it, that way we can kind of roll it just a little bit.
Hey now, see? Ain't got it. Looking pretty good. Yeah.
So we got the rear axle out, and we're just gonna kind of let it chill right there. We've got to clean off those brackets, but before I do that, Patrick actually just dropped off this Barnes Pridget Canyon front bumper. This is the Barnes Pridget Canyon Builder Kit bumper for the JK, and we're actually gonna be adapting it to work on this Cherokee. Now this bumper will go on JKUs, JLUs, Gladiators, stuff like that, but obviously it is not all together, so that's what we're gonna work on tonight since it's cold and rainy. So that's what me and Pickle is gonna work on tonight. What you eating, dude? I really need to go across everything with some acetone or brake cleaner or something like that, because this metal, it comes with this material on it. It's kind of oily, and like you can see, like this was a clean rag. But it's just to help prevent it from flash rusting, and you got to get that material or that oil off so that you can get a good weld, because you don't want to be welding to this thick piece of metal and it's not making good penetration because you were lazy and left some residue up there. So we definitely don't want that. And this is actually a toe point, so you want the strongest welds to be pretty much on this. But so it's gonna take me a few minutes. I'm just gonna go across everything with some paint thinner, some acetone. So the first thing that you're gonna wanna do is find this bracket right here. This is actually what is going to be mounting the bumper to the vehicle. So just drop them in like this, make sure that they're seated like that. And then we can flip it over. And then we're gonna be putting on these bolt locks, and they're just gonna, you can just kind of push those on like that. And that's just gonna make sure that they don't fall off whenever you're welding, or if you have to take these bumpers on and off, it's just gonna keep that lag bolt tight in there. What you do is you take this plate right here, and then you take this one, and it'll have an L. I'm starting on the left side. I always do driver's side first. I don't know why I always do, but you take that little notch, and it goes just like that. And then this falls, well, basically falls right there. And so that piece of tube is going to be coming right here. So you want to keep this open. And how I'm going to do that is just using some 90-degree magnets just to hold it where I want it. Mind you, I'm only going to be tack welding this for right now, but I still want to tack weld it correctly. So I'm just going to scoot that just a wee bit there. And so that stays just like that. And I've got it lined up on the bottom. I know you can't see, but my hands are kind of tied. But basically the name of the game is you want this tube to be able to sit right there flush, and then you want these bolts to be lined up so that it bolts directly onto your vehicle. So if you mess this up, the tube's not going to go in right, and then if this is crooked, it's not going to go on the Jeep right. So you've just kind of got to just get it right in its happy spot. And something else that I'm doing is I am putting this degree finder on everything, and that way I can make sure that whenever I tack weld the passenger side, I know for a fact that everything is on the same plane and everything is the same angle. Now that I've got it pretty much where I want, I'm just going to go ahead and start putting a couple of tack welds. And just another friendly reminder, just make sure you put your tack welds somewhere that's easy to grind off. Like, don't just start in a corner where you can't really get something to cut down the tack weld. Just do it somewhere that's pretty easy to get to, like on the top of something or right here at the very back. All right, so I've got this tacked into place. All right. Electricity went off. I've got this tacked into place, and so what I need to do now is I need to just take some clamps and just really pull this front section into this tube. That way I can get good welds all the way down. You can see I'm just going to be pulling that piece in. That way there's less of a gap. That way it looks nice. So I'm just going to, that one's touching. So I get another one right here. Down in a hole. All right, so I got that one tacked up. So I can take this off, move to this one. Squeeze it on, put a tack weld on. All right, so all these are pretty much touching all the way down. So I think we're in good shape. I'm gonna go ahead and get some more solid tacks all the way around, and we'll keep working. So the next thing that I'm going to do is get this support tube welded on. And so what you do with this is you can see there's an outline already on this main bracket. And so what you do is you just put the DOM right there where it's outlined, and it matches up perfectly with this tube right here. So there's really no measuring or anything because Barnes has already figured out exactly where it needs to go. So I'm just going to line this up right there, and now I can tack weld this on. in the shop. I think the last thing that y'all saw was we got the front bumper on, and you can see here I have some fog lights on there, and they may look familiar to you because they are the old headlights that were on the LJ that I took off whenever I replaced them with the off-road LED lights. So we're gonna be running those as fog lights on this Jeep. But we have the Jeep up in the air because we are going to be doing the rear suspension tonight. And let me show you what parts we're gonna be putting on. All right, so the first bracket that I have right here, this is the front leaf spring hanger relocation kit. And this thing is super, super beefy. And I did paint it with some Steelite, that way I can weld to it if need be. And it comes with all the hardware that you need. But what you have to do, don't mind the rust hole, we did that for lighting purposes. But what you basically have to do is cut out the leaf spring hanger. You actually have to cut a hole in the unibody, and then that bracket actually becomes the unibody, so to speak. So we got to put that on, and then we've got to make sure that it clearances the frame or the unibody stiffeners that were welded on. And then this bracket right here, this is the rear leaf spring hanger relocation bracket, and it's kind of the same concept. We have to cut out this section right here, and we don't have to cut out the unibody on this side, or we don't have to cut the unibody out back here like we do in the front. But we're basically going to be getting rid of all this, and as you can see, Patrick went ahead and took the gas tank out so that we don't burn ourselves up.
Wow, good call.
So this Jeep did have a little bit of rust issues, and I think Patrick did some rust repairs right there. So this may look a little bit different than y'all's Jeep if you're doing it on a non-rusted XJ, but you can see he's got some plates in there. They just reinforced the unibody right there. And then we got this, and then right there we had to do some rust repair. We're still working on that. So this may look a little different than your Cherokee. If you're considering it for yours, you probably won't have to do the extra work that we're about to have to do. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get to it. We're gonna start with the front right here. We're gonna go ahead and basically just take a plasma cutter and just cut this whole section out. I'm actually going to make Patrick do the cutting because I'm gonna get inside and I'm gonna play firefighter just to make sure that we don't burn the carpet. Fire. It's out. It's out. Oh, yep. We just took a floor jack and then another jack handle and just kind of basically pressed that bracket up to where it belongs. And we've got it pretty much exactly where the factory bolt was, but of course there's adjustment, but we just wanted it just to get as close as possible to the factory location. And we did have to trim up the unibody stiffener right there. And we're going to be welding this to the unibody stiffener. And then it also has a bolt hole right there. And then it has bolt holes right there, one right there. I'm going to be welding it right there. But for right now, I'm just going to tack it up and maybe get a couple of these bolts in. It's just the way that you use it. right, so we have the mount welded on, and now Patrick is drilling it out. So what happens is you actually drill out, and then you put these plates on the inside, and then you run some grade 8 bolts. So you're basically going to be able to jump this thing.
There was spray foam in there. It looked like popcorn coming out.
Popcorn. Oh, the spray foam under the seat.
Yeah. And
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Cool deal. And so before we put bolts in that, we're going to spray paint it. That way where we drilled out won't rust. Because this is a rust-free Cherokee, mostly. So he's going to hit it with some Steel It right there. That way it won't rust. And we're going to actually paint from the inside out too. So while he is working on getting the bolts and that, we're going to start focusing on this bracket right here. So what my plan of attack is to cut it right along here, and then right along in the back, and then right here, and then I got to cut this plate off that Patrick welded on here. Not bad welds though, but it's got to come off. As you can see, we did take the gas tank out. We just kind of wanted to be on the safe side. And, you know, because we're going to be probably using the plasma cutter mostly right here, and it can kind of get haywire. So I'm going to fire up the plasma cutter and start cutting this out. Fire. Big fire. So if you're doing this on your Jeep, make sure that you have a buddy that is fire spotter. Steam sealer inside of the Jeep likes to ignite whenever it gets hot, and then that catches the carpet on fire. I was, of course, running the camera, not paying attention. Just do a better job than I do at spotting fires. So Patrick cut all this out, and then we plated it back up. We've got to repair some of that rust, but we're just going to show you how this bracket goes on for right now. But so this is the bracket right there, and as you see, as he's putting it up there, I don't know what he's doing, but it lines up with the factory holes on the bottom. All right, so Patrick grinded all this down. We do have some rust repair we have to do, but other than that, we hit it with some Steel It, just so that we know that there's going to be no raw metal back there. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and test fit this bracket. Ooh, very nice. So it lines up with the factory unibody holes. Slide it over just a little bit. So yeah, right there. So right there it lines up with the factory unibody holes. And man, look at all the options that we have for the leaf spring. That's nuts. Mm-hmm. So it pretty much rides on top right there, and then there's two bolts. Oh God, sorry. And then there's two bolts that go right there. So there's two bolts on top that are actually going to be putting a plate and some grade 8 nuts and bolts up here. So it's going to be all just pinched all the way around. So we're going to be taking these grade 8 bolts and putting in, and like I said, it's going in the factory bolts. It's going in the factory bolt holes.
You might adjust.
All right, so we got like super busy putting this one on, and we've already finishing up on the passenger side now. Once we kind of got it figured out, it was a lot easier on the opposite side. I would say the hardest part was just plasma cutting it and making sure that we didn't like burn ourselves up with the fuel system right there. So what he's doing now is he's putting a plate in from the top and is basically just sandwiching that plate to the unibody, to the actual shell and the unibody. So it's really cool how it just distributes out the weight of the vehicle on the Jeep. So it's not just isolated to right here, it just spreads it out so far and then bolts it down. This system is how this Jeep should have came from the factory. So we have everything pretty much welded all in. Got some fresh paint on it, got the gas tank back in, and got everything wired up, plumbed for that. Patrick's up there screwing up the brakes. And this side is all good to go. As you can see, it's got fresh paint, and then I finished welding this unibody stiffener right there. And yeah, so I think we're ready to get this axle in. So we're actually going to try to be lazy and bring the Jeep to the leaf springs here, and hopefully it'll just line right up where we don't have to take the leaf springs off the axle. If we do, that's fine, but we're just going to try this just because it'd be way too cool if that worked.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Pretty much dropped right onto the leaf springs, and we're just kind of having to do some final adjustments. That's the final adjustments. Yeah. So there's a tab that he's putting on the back right there, and it's got the nut welded to it. So up underneath the Jeep here, you can kind of see how the hanger works. Thick metal right there, and then it kind of comes right here. You can see where the bolt comes through, and then this tab right here goes right up in there. And then you just tighten this down once the weight of the vehicle is on it. We got the front all squared away, and we actually did stretch the wheelbase just a little bit we just moved the axle back on one of these bolt holes on the front mount. So now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna get this shackle in. And so as you can see, there's several different options right here. I think we're just gonna go for the lower bolt holes right there and just go for the middle one and kind of see where that puts us. And so now I'm just going to use the bolts that came with the CavFab kit. And so what you do is you pretty much just put it where you want to, and then you can actually send this tab right up there and it'll tighten up. So I mean, there's several different spots, so if we ever decide to change it up a little bit in the future, we absolutely can. Or if we decide to stretch the wheelbase a little bit more, we can. So now I'm just gonna start with this one. Get that lined up. And then I'm probably just gonna go with the bottom hole for right now. So you can take a rubber mallet, just kind of massage everything to line up. Oh yeah. All right, so now we got that one in, and now we can go do basically the same process on the passenger side. So we got the roof rack off. Got it sitting on its own weight. We got all the suspension torqued down, did a alignment on it, and let's see, what else have we done?
Seats back in.
Oh yeah, we got the seats back in it. We got this fender painted. Yeah.
Honk, honk.
I like it. It looks a lot better with like the carpet.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. He's just finishing up, covering up where we had put the bolts in, just kind of putting some seam sealer on that. And he's got to get the rear seat in once he's done with that. But check this out. So we're pretty much on the checkoff list here. We've torqued all suspension. We torqued all the suspension down, right?
Long arms.
Yeah. And then the jam nuts are tight, right?
No.
Okay. Okay. We've done the alignment. We've done the lug nuts. And we got to do the hoses. We got to do the plate that goes right there for the
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and drill them holes and
yeah.
go ahead and mount them.
Yeah, I'm good with that. But man, this is like coming right along. I've got everything pretty much all torqued, got all the lug nuts on. Hey Easton, hey Bennett. So basically now, since we've got the gas tank back in, I need to prime the system and make sure that we don't have any leaks. So what I'm gonna get Tweedledee and Tweedledum over there to do is to turn the key forward a couple of times, and I'm just gonna get up underneath the Jeep and check for any gas leaks. So Bennett, go ahead and hit that key forward. All right, so I hear the fuel pump coming on, that's good. All right, cut it back off and do it again. Okay, I don't see any leaks. All right, one more time. So the one leak right there, that's the differential. But I don't see any gas leaks. So sweet. Good job, boys.
You're welcome. Same.
All right, so it is a beautiful day outside and we are in the shop because we have to get some minor things on this Cherokee done before we can take it to this event. So I don't know if I showed this in the previous videos, but this Jeep has some rust issues right there in the fender. And in my opinion, there's really no point of displaying this Jeep at the event with the ugly rust on the fender. And let me show you what I got. I've seen this type of rust on a Cherokee quite often over the years. And it looks like somebody has trimmed the fenders and then painted it with a primer, possibly. But so this is separated right here. And so we'll have to fix all that because we don't want any moisture going inside of the vehicle right there. So you can see the rust actually comes up to right here. So one thing I want to say before I start on this, I am not a body guy. I do not have the patience for it. I don't like Bondo. I don't like any of that stuff. So I'm going to try to get this as close to perfect as possible without doing a lot of body work, which is pretty much impossible. But like I said, I'm just trying to get close. I just want to make this look better than what it does right now. I'm just going to be using this angle grinder, and I'm going to try to do like this to about right there, and then probably about right here, and then probably about right there. Just kind of a nice rectangle. And there's really no art or science to this. It's just mainly cutting some metal with an angle grinder. I may have a little too much confidence in myself right now. So I've got some shop help today. What's up, Bennett?
What's up?
What's up, Easton?
What's up?
Well, Bennett's over for Easton's birthday slumber party, and now I'm putting him to work. But so I'm gonna get Bennett, if he don't mind, I'm gonna get him to basically start sanding this paint away right here, so that way when it's time to weld, we can weld it. Isn't that right?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. Look, if y'all sand all this down, I'll take y'all to Taco Bell and to the park.
All right. Bet.
All right. It's pretty cheap labor. Taco Bell and the park. Get your stuff sanded.
The always delicious Taco Bell.
So I took just a piece of paper and just kind of traced it out to what size I needed. And then I just basically transferred it onto a sheet of, I think it's 18 gauge or 16 gauge metal. So you can see this point right here is a little higher than this point right here where I cut. So I've got some challenges up ahead. And then of course, this also has a small radius coming off. So this isn't just a straight piece of metal. It actually has a curve in it. So this kind of bubbles out just a little bit. So I've got to keep that in mind. And then I've got to bend it here and here. And then I've actually got to bend it here and here. So to be honest with you, I've been kind of toying around with this. And what I did was I just put it in my vise and bent it where I put it up here, marked it, and then bent it at the marks. And I've got it daggone close, but not close enough where I can weld it yet. I've almost got it, but it's raised up in this corner where it's low right here. So I've got to start figuring out, because you don't want to pull this out or push this in or vice versa, because when you look down it, your body lines aren't going to be right and people are going to be like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. Which honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just, like I said, I'm not a body guy. I'm just a guy that cuts and grinds metal. So I ended up just putting this in the vise like 1.5 million times, and you can see I've kind of got a curve right here and then an angle there, and then it kind of jolts down. I do have some extra just because I can always just come back and trim it up. I don't really have any major gaps anywhere. My lines are all working out. So I think what I'm going to do now is go ahead and tack this on. I threw an old welding coat on the tire just because I don't want any slag or welding debris to drop on the tire, mess the rubber up or anything like that. So I've got this tack welded. I did grind some of my tack welds down just to make sure that they're not porous or anything like that. So I'm happy with my tack welds. And I'm actually gonna let this cool down. Right now it just kind of feels like a warm cup of coffee, but I just don't want to heat up this metal right here all around it, because it'll start warping if you're not careful. So I'm just gonna sit right there. It felt like it was trying to get like a high spot. But you just want to be really careful and take your time, because this metal right here will warp a lot faster than this metal right here, because this is actually a little bit thicker. So a little tip that kind of helps me is when you're welding a thicker piece of metal to a thinner piece of metal, you want to start your tack on the thicker piece of metal and then bank over to the thinner piece and kind of pull it in, because if you start on this, like I did right there, you're just gonna burn through and it's gonna be ugly. So I've got to come back and fix some of these burn holes later on. But for right now, I'm just going to let it cool off, come back to it, and finish tacking it all up. I have just been sanding and sanding for hours, it seems like. And I did go ahead and tape everything off because I'm going to be painting the back just like I did the front fenders. And so now that I've got it pretty much close to where I want it, I'm just going to hit it with some glass cleaner just to get off any leftover residue. I like using glass cleaner because it doesn't break down the paint that's already there. It just helps get up all the dust and everything like that. And it gives it a very, very clean painting surface. So I'm just gonna go all around with this glass cleaner everywhere that I'm gonna be painting. All right, so it's been a few days since I have filmed just because we have been super busy trying to get this Cherokee put back together. But check this out. So I've got the Jeep on the lift right here, and I have that panel all smoothed out I did have to come back and redo it with Bondo. So to be honest with you, I got a little irritated with it and put the camera down and just really tried to focus on my work and not trying to make sure the lighting is good, make sure it's in focus. If you do YouTube, you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. So the final piece to the puzzle here is, oh crap, where is it? Is this right here. This is a Spartan Locker, and it's going to be going in the rear of this Cherokee. And to be honest with you, this is probably one of the easiest lockers that you'll ever install if you ever do it to your Jeep. So now I'm just kind of getting ready to, So now what I'm doing is getting my lighting, just because whenever I do anything in a differential, I like to use my super bright lights. That way I can see any imperfections, any cracks. I can see any damages, anything like that. You can basically see grit with these lights right here. Like, look how much light is in here. The first thing we're gonna do to get this Spartan Locker in is we have to take out that pin right there. So what I did to be able to reach this bolt/pin was I just turned the drive shaft and it just kind of spun around. So now I'm going to be taking a 8mm wrench and just turning it. All right, so I'm going to take this pin out and so I'm going to see if y'all can see the scoring on this cross pin and why it was putting up such a fight. So when spider gears start wearing out, they start pretty much taking everything with them. But you can see right there, that is a pretty big score. So this cross pin is no good. But luckily, the new Spartan Locker comes with one. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is get the spider gears out. So I'm just gonna push in just like so, and these little turds are gonna fall right out. And make sure that the washers, the thrust washers, make sure that they come out. Let's see, here's two. All right. So now what I'm gonna do is push in this axle shaft as much as I can. And you see my C-clip. Well, so obviously the C-clip just falls right out. So I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. So that's your C-clips right there. Don't lose these, you're gonna reuse them. And I lost my other one. Oh, there it is. Ugh, get in here and do some work. And I'll push this one out a little bit. Thank you. So then you take your other spider gears, take them out, and make sure that you get that washer on the back. Make sure you get that washer out too. So this is everything that comes in the Spartan Locker and this is the part number right here. It's the 8 1/4 Chrysler 29 spline. But basically this is everything that comes with it. It's super simple and yet it's really effective. This is the middle section of the locker, and let me open up this bag. Basically I'm going to take this spring and the pin and place into this and push down. Then you take this wire right here and put into the hole, and check that out. So now I've got to do it on this side and then the other one, and then this will be ready to install in the Jeep. So a little tip that I like to use is get some good old American red and tacky, and I'm actually going to be putting a little bit on this spring right there. All right. And then I'm going to take this C-clip. I'm going to take the C-clip and get some red and tacky on that. And I'm going to drop on that C-clip. And then I'm going to push the axle shaft all the way out as tight as I can, just so it's holding pressure on that C-clip. That way it don't fall out. I'm going to take this center section right here and get some red and tacky on that. And make sure that you put in the axle cap right there. Hush, cat. No. Yeah, hold on to that. And I'm just going to rub this all around. Hold on. Do you not see my hands are full?
You go say.
Go, Cat.
Come on.
Cat is like a youngin'. So you can see my wires right there. Make sure all that's good. All right, so I'm just gonna slide. So you can see this has flat spots right there, top and bottom, and that is gonna allow it to go inside of the carrier. And you can take these wires and bend them down, just like that. So I can visually see all that seated. So now I'm gonna take this side right here and go ahead and get some red and tacky on that. All in there, all in the teeth. And I'm gonna slide this in. Now I'm gonna push this axle shaft back in. So now I'm just gonna take a little bit more red and tacky for this last piece. And this is where things are gonna get kind of interesting, because I have to get that C-clip back on, and it's gonna be very difficult when all 4 of these pieces are in here. But what is really cool is that there is a section right here, this flat section, that's gonna allow me just enough room to drop in that C-clip on that axle shaft. So just be mindful of this section right here. So I'm going to feed this in just like so, and make sure you put teeth to teeth, and make sure your axle cap is in there too. And I may have put a little too much red and tacky on here. All right, so I can see that the axle shaft piece is where the C-clip rides, is right there. So now I can take the C-clip and push in just like so. So now I can take a flathead screwdriver and just tap it right there onto the axle shaft. And now I'm just gonna pull the axle shaft back out as much as I can. And I know that C-clip is seated. So now I can turn this like that, and I'm gonna line up where the cross pin is gonna be going in. So I'm just verifying that this is lined up, and I'm gonna take this right here and pull out carefully. And you hear that click, that's that spring pushing that cap, and it has seated inside of the locker. So now I can take this side, do the same thing, pop it out, that one's seated. Now I can spin this whole assembly. Now I'm going to do the same thing to the opposite side. Pop. There it goes. I got to spin that. Pop, there it goes. So all 4 of them have seated. So now I can spin this all the way to where I can put my cross pin back in. Just like that, got everything lined up. So now I'm going to take some grease. Just make sure that you line up this hole with the hole right there in the carrier. Just like that. And I'm just making sure that that hole is lined up for the new bolt pin. So now I can start that. And you also need to verify that there is some sort of Loctite on that, because you definitely don't want that backing out. So now I'm just going to try to clean the red and tacky up as much as I can. And now I've just got to verify my tolerances right there, make sure that it is in spec, and the locker's good to go. So look what finally made it out to the Jeep event. We actually did finish it, and Patrick drove it. How'd it drive, man?
Like a dream.
Like a dream.
Like a
So
dream.
we haven't done like a proper alignment. We just did the alignment in my shop. But I mean, from what I haven't drove it, but Patrick said it drove pretty good. So it's good enough for who it's for.
A long time coming.
Good day, ShopKeep.